2:39. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good evening. Don't know what time it is near. Oh wait, I can see the clock behind you. It's that time again. Today is January 6, 2018. It's my day 1.239, etc., etc., etc. I have yesterday just had a real stressful work day. I don't think it had anything to do with being transgender or whatnot. But I'm definitely drained of my energy today, and I slept for 13 hours, and I could crawl back in that bed that has got 3 cats sleeping in it, and my dog was sleeping in it a minute ago, and just snuggle up and be a happy little potato, couch potato, bed potato. But I've had an opportunity over the last couple of days to watch my last video, and I think I made mention that I do watch them frequently, and not because I'm vain. It's not an exercise in building my ego. It's just I may have a problem, and talking about it is one way of exploring it, pulling it apart somewhat, as if it was kind of a tangled skein of different things. A question and a conundrum, as they say, and then I watch it back when I walk on the treadmill, when I clean my house, etc., etc. It helps me to revisit the argument or the discussion or the diatribe. I guess really it's a one-way discussion, and then I can pick it apart and take the parts that I like or the parts that I don't like, or this last video I did about will you be trans next year? I had seen just some really good posts and some feedback. I shared the video with my local support group and had gotten mixed results. Some humor interjected into it, which I maybe needed to be. Sometimes we take things too seriously, and we need a little bit of humor to ground us. Although I'll be honest, my first reaction was I was going to say, thank you for taking a serious issue that's very significant to me and turning it into a joke. That was my first reaction. But then the more I thought about it, I said, well, from her point of view, it probably is funny. It's a free country. Say what you want to say, etc., etc. But then on the channel, there were some really serious posts, and I think some issues that again, once we pull through this morass of discussion, and again, I realize it's more of a diatribe. It's a dialogue on my side. It's a monologue, probably more than anything else. Some holes, kind of opened up in it, and I think it's good to make note of it. And I'll be honest, I really am fishing. Okay, I'm fishing. I am looking for, obviously, people's opinions, but I'm also interested in asking trans women who have had. I'm specifically, and I'm interested in everyone's opinion, even those that make jokes about it. But I'm definitely interested in someone who has the experience into where I am going, which is hopefully, knock on plastic, I will be a post-op transgender woman. Trans woman here in 6 months. I go a little shy of 2 weeks from now for my second consult, and I only have 5 pounds more to lose. Today marks the 101st pound. I've lost 101 pounds in 10 months, which is pretty good, if I say so. If I do say so myself, because I did. The incentive to lose fat, it's kind of unfair in my opinion, and I mentioned that in my last video too. But regardless of it, I'm interested in someone who has the practical experience of being in that environment, being in the post-op environment, and coming to terms with a different sexual organ, a different sexual setup. Someone who has had experience with a first date or a second date or a third date with a prospective partner that you want to be romantic with or sexually active with, and here you have this new setup. You were you were this way for 40 some odd years, and now you're this way for the remainder of your life. And what does that feel like? And how do you, give me somewhat of an operating manual, first time buyer's guide, how does it work? And, what's your problems? Do you have any suggestions? So I'm definitely interested. And there was one person who did come along and said, yeah, I had it 15 years ago, and here's my experience. And that was a very sobering thought for me that I think I am still dealing with, because a very, very wise trans woman, and I mentioned her in the last video too, Tess, she said to me one time that we are survivors. And that's something I want to drive home maybe in this video, is we are survivors. And I don't exactly remember everything. There's my dog. I don't exactly remember everything that Tess had said. Okay, she's old. She pees. Right. Give her some privacy. Oop. You'll figure it out. There she goes. But Tess said we are survivors. And I guess how to explain that. If we can look at a transition as being somewhat of running a gauntlet, it's an obstacle course. And there's so many ways that so many challenges we face as we run through the obstacle course. And if we can make it to certain milestones in that, like, so many months of hormone, or getting hormones, first of all, so many months of hormones, going full time, I think is probably the biggest waypoint, woo, full time. I mean, rightfully so, it should be. I mean, it unburdens a person so very much to go full time. And definitely you're going to have other challenges and other things that pop up, but it's a new phase of this obstacle course transition. And then she said, we are survivors. We have made it through these challenges, and we're going to continue on. And she said something to me about, and I haven't done the research on it, but, the suicide rate at different stages can get up to be 50%. Look to your left and look to your right. And if they're not going to kill themselves, you are, statistically. And that's a very sobering thought, to have made it all the way through this obstacle course, or to a major point, like full time, and then to kill yourself, to be so full of, to be overwhelmed with sadness and I grief. I don't know. I leave that to the community to fill in that hole. For me, it was, yay! Thank God Almighty, free at last, as Dr. King said. But again, and then she went on to say, and women, and she's a post-op, and she said, who are post-ops? That's another milestone, another plateau, finish line, somewhat stage. I forget what you call it. In the Tour de France, where they have like legs of the tour, we'll say legs, stages. And what the very nice, kind trans woman who posted on my channel had said is, it's been 15 years ago, and I have these feelings of her feelings, and I'll take her out of it, and possible feelings of doubt, regret, maybe. I'm not talking about her anymore. I'm talking about generalization. I'm guessing. Here's where I'm forecasting. Okay, I'm casting out what could be. I don't know yet. I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm headed there, hopefully, knock on plastic. In 6 months, I'm hoping to have GCS. And I realize that will open up a whole other can of worms as far as problems and challenges on this obstacle course somewhat. But Tess said we are survivors. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. We are. I mean, if we got merit badges, okay, betray a little bit of my background. I'm an Eagle Scout. Once you're an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout. And God damn it, the Eagle Scout Association knows where I am, and I've changed my name, and I still get letters from them. I really think it was the National Eagle Scout Association that found Osama bin Laden, if you ask me. I really do. And then they told SEAL Team 6. Our scout heritage, my scout heritage, if we could get on our merit badge or a little knot, even, survived stage 1 or so, you know what I mean? A little badge or certificate, or I don't know what you get in the mail. We are survivors. And that's why sometimes my friends, and I can think of one off the top of my head, Jamie, who cried out. She's really become a good friend. Yoo-hoo, it feels so good to cry. Okay. Oh, baby, let it out. I feel for the pain of my sisters, you all, me. Okay. It's happiness and liberating at the same time as this emotion that just comes in, and maybe that's part of dealing with things. But we're survivors, if this was cavemen and women, I mean, we'd have leopard skin, my achievement, whatever. I'm a man, I killed something with a stick. But as I have said to some folks like my friend Jamie, and I anticipate some other friends like Miss Amelia and Miss Amber, going through that first year, there are going to be times when you feel like this isn't happening as fast as I want. Our breasts are not growing, hair, nails. Okay, appearance. Do this shit. I mean, can you see? You probably can. You can hear it. Okay, I still have hairs on. I have beard hairs on my face. What the fuck is that? Okay, but the survivor. Look at and this is where what got me crying, because I got so happy for Jamie. Look at how far you've come. Look at how far you've come, baby. And I love you as a friend. Okay, as a girl to girl. I'm so happy for you, and I'm so happy for everybody. Look at how far you've come. And that's what I would say if I could hold out. I could reach out and give a hug to that girl who said, give her a hug and say, look at how far you've come, baby. Look at how far we've come. I don't know about you, but I'm very thankful for my male self that got me through 40 years of this life. Okay, and I'm sorry that he had to make the ultimate sacrifice and let me take over. But he put up a good fight, and I'm very thankful for him. I love him too. But anyway, survivors. We're survivors. And that's what I want to say. We're survivors. And back to that idea, what Tess had said, be a post-op, okay? And you think when you're pre-op, okay, well, if we could divide that in this process into 2 stages, and definitely there's more than 2, pre-op, post-op, because you may not even decide to be a post-op, so hooray. Okay, but for the sake of discussion, let's assume this is a track we're on, okay? Before you're a post-op, and this is an inference on my part, I think being a post-op is like the cat's meow. I mean, all my problems are going to be solved, right? Even though I know that's false. There's going to be a whole other slew of problems. But you're like, geez, if I was a post-op, my hormones would be done, or, I would be transitioned, I'd be full-time. Hopefully the world will accept me, even if my parents don't, or my family members don't, or my coworkers don't exactly accept me 100%. I can go to the grocery store, and when I walk up to the deli counter and I get asked, hey, ma'am, what can I get you today? Thank you, hon. Here you go, sweetie. Okay, and granted, a little sexism there, but I don't care. I take it. Because they do the same thing to the next woman who comes along. That makes me feel really good. even if it is a little sexist. I'll take it. No complaints. But I've totally forgotten where I was going with that. Survivors. Oh, the difference between the two. Okay. But that's where I am headed into this, again, knock on wood, knock on plastic, knock on whatever. I guess all I have is really plastic and metal. I don't have any wood. You know, that's where I want to be in 6 months. Okay. Lose the 5 pounds, finish clearing out my area. Which, as an aside, hurts like a motherfucker today. Just in case you're wondering. Imagine, if you picture, if you will, Twilight Zone. Just an area that used to have hair that's being choo, 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 choo. And on a cold day, it's like sandpaper. Okay, but accept that for what it is. It's all for the greater good, right? Go through all that, and again, we're survivors, and I've already forgotten my point. I'm sorry. But we are survivors, and that is the direction. There we go. That's the direction I'm going in. So I'm curious to see what happens in the next phase. And that doesn't diminish the impact or the importance of what has happened up to this point. Okay, that doesn't trivialize the experience of someone who is thinking about, am I transgender, or someone who is thinking about getting hormones, or someone who has just started hormones, or someone who is dealing with my parents. My parents have treated me as misgendered me all of my life, and how do I convey that? I mean, those are huge struggles, like I said, on this obstacle course. And I think sometimes that's what pisses me off when someone, makes fun of someone who's a little less, because you're like, you went through this. Have you really forgotten what a struggle the first 2 years are? But that's where I'm headed, and so I think one advantage to having this channel and this outlet, this media form, YouTube and video somewhat, is so that someone who, regardless of where they are, like I said, in those previous positions of starting out, dealing with hormones and parents and whatever, you can go back to, I'm not going to say my videos are worth watching, but you can go back and see where I was at month 1 and month 2. And you can see and say, you know what, Robin had the same shit that I did, or something similar, Not to trivialize what happens, but to say it happens. And again, for someone who might be a little earlier on the path, on the journey, to say, it really bothers me, my coworker dead named me or whatever, and I'm like, honey, I'm with you, baby. I feel your pain, and I'm a year further along the path than you, and I get dead named, Accept it. But that doesn't trivialize the feelings, the urgency and the depth of pain at that time. So I guess I'm glad that this medium exists. And as I've explained, I watch my earlier videos sometimes to revisit and to think about things. And I definitely like the comments on the last video. It made me think a little more. So let's get to that before we get too far into the video here. We're already just a little shy of 20 minutes. Let's talk about the last one a little bit. And the topic was, will you be transgender next year? Will you be transgender in 2 years? Will you be transgender in 3 years? And somewhat the crux of the discussion was looking at the word transgender. And there was a good speech by Joanne Ferrari, a TED Talk you can look up that I've put a link in the previous video, that she talked about. She didn't like being called transgender. And I think that's what started this seed in my mind about transgender, a change of gender. And I looked up in the dictionary, multiple dictionaries actually. I don't have one handy, darn it. I'll use my German flashcards here. I looked up in the dictionary, and there are multiple, it's a word, multiple uses of it. Who would have known? Okay. Trans. What does it mean? And more importantly, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? Okay. Is trans, if we look it up in the dictionary, and most of the contemporary dictionaries, the second or third hit was transgender. If I just put trans in Google, okay, because I think the usage of the word has gone up since 2010 quite a bit. Okay, it's in our common lexicon. It's in our common vernacular. Transgender. So we say trans, and as a slang term, trans, tranny, whatever. But trans can mean, among its meanings, and certainly you have an opinion on this, I'm sure, it can mean a change of state from one to the other. It can also mean a movement from one state to the other. And most of the definitions of transgender, and again, the most important definition is what you believe it means in your own life. But from just a Webster dictionary point of view, it's someone who, unfortunately, it's someone who believes that their gender is different than what was assigned to them at birth because of their sex. Okay? At least from, Webster, Funk and Wagnall's definition, Webster definition, the thesaurus, sandpaper, crotch, necessary. So regardless, the whole crux of my thing was the idea of trans is change. Whereas in reality, if you look it up in the dictionary today, at least 2018, 5 minutes ago I did, it's a transfer from one to the other, but based off of what you were at birth compared to where you are now, your gender. So in that light, if we were to assume that was it, okay, as the basis of this video, then yeah, no matter what I do, I'll take you out of it. No matter what I do, and no matter what you do, but no matter what I do, I will always be transgender in that basis because I was sexed as a boy when I was born. My parents, I was born and they spanked my butt and I cried and there was a little Vienna sausage attached and the doctor said, "Congratulations, you have a bouncy baby boy." Okay. And a couple years later, no. The female gender was there inside the male body. And so because of that, I will for always be transgender. At least if we were to take that definition. Okay, that's that idea. If you were to take it to this other idea, which again, I highly recommend watching the Joanna Ferrari video. It's really kind of cool about trans as change in gender. Again, that's her perception. And what I like about a discussion is I get to express my thoughts as exploration, as well as you in the comments, but also in your own life. What does it mean to you? And definitely for the woman that did reach out, post-op, what does it mean to her? And certainly just because what it means to one person doesn't mean it's going to mean that to someone else. But I like the idea of a community so that we can share, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, there was no internet. Okay. This was 1970, the early 70s. There was no internet. We had K-tel records, and I'd shake my booty to, KC and the Sunshine Band. There was no internet. And when I was in, once I kind of figured out what I was, some of my feelings, I didn't know how to articulate it, and I didn't encounter the word transgender or transsexed until middle school. So there was a good 4 or 5 years of my life, I didn't know what in the hell I was. I just knew I wasn't a boy. Okay. So back to that idea, and here's what popped out in my mind, and I can't give you the timestamp. The last video, I think the first 12 minutes, I was explaining about my daughter who had asked the question about, will I tell the principal of her middle school she's going to next year that I'm transgender, and the answer is no. But I've watched from like minute 12 on, I'd say at least 5, 10, 15 times in the last 2 days. And a point that really stuck out was the word chapter. You know, if we can describe this transition, this journey, is what I heard. First time I heard that, it would like diamond bullet in my head. Colonel Kurtz, okay. Journey. We're on journey. We're on a journey, and your journey is different than my journey, even though we're kind of going in the same direction, maybe through similar terrain. We have similar things, but yet different. I think that's an excellent metaphor, or is it a simile? But this chapter, this portion of the journey, you know, I am in this latter part of being a pre-op trans woman. And a couple, hopefully in the next 6 months, I'll move into the next chapter, which will be as a post-op, okay? Which has been like my dream since I was 18, okay? So I was in high school. I was like, this is possible, okay? Actually, it was middle school. And I knew. I said, oh my gosh, I gotta have that surgery. But the idea of chapter, and from one chapter to the next. And, you know, I do feel, and I think I was so honed in on the process to say my transition is over. And there were some really good comments about, you know, well, I kind of think it's a lifelong thing. And that could be true. You know, I won't know till I get there. Certainly the previous chapter was, you know, the first year of my transition, you know, coming out and dealing with my daughter's school and my divorce and everything else. I mean, that's in a previous chapter. You know, that's in the previous chapter. And who knows what the next chapter is going to hold. Like I said, I think the next chapter for me is going to be post-op. And that's definitely going to come with its own set of challenges. But I like that idea of somewhat of a chapter. And I had made mention about some other trans women who have kind of faded away. And some who had even said, you know, they cannot identify with the trans community anymore, for whatever reason. And I kind of personally believe it's because they have moved on to another chapter. You know, I know that me, and being old and crusty now, I have very little patience for someone who won't be inconvenienced. You know, they would transition, but it would be an inconvenience for them. And at that point, I'm like, oh, you poor baby. So see, that's where I'm a bitch. That's where I get old and crusty. You know, because yeah, I wanted to transition in my 20s too, but you know, the smartest thing I ever did was buy a tie and interview for a job. And yeah, I had to work in the workplace as a male for 20 years. But that's how I got the money to do what I wanted to do. No one was going to pay for my transition. So when I see a teenager or a 20-year-old who's like, oh, I'm on welfare and whatever. I mean, and we'll treat disability if you're mentally disabled. That's one thing. Physically disabled. But, you know, I have very little sympathy. I have very little understanding for someone, because when I was in my teens, I was cleaning bathrooms, you know, and then when I was in my 20s and sometimes in my 30s, if I lost a job or whatnot, or I need extra money, I was working at Burger King, flipping burgers and working at the drive-thru. So I know internally I have very little patience for someone who is unwilling to be inconvenienced, for lack of a better word. or they're used to a specific lifestyle. I know someone else who's a little older who, they make $100,000 a year. And the thought of them not making so much money is a reason why they're not going to transition. Okay, be unhappy if that's your decision, but realize that's what it is. It's your decision. And so again, that makes me feel old and crusty and like a bitch, and that I may very well be. And maybe that's why older trans women, they kind of pull back. And before, in the last video, I said they went on to the next chapter of their life, and I used my hero from my college days, Melanie Ann Phillips, who said, this is my last video. I am closing the chapter of my transition, and I am going to start the chapter of being a woman. Okay. And I realized you could say, well, you're going to be trans woman the rest of your life. You're going to transition the rest of your life. You're going to be transgender the rest of your life. But she's closing the chapter on that and moving on to something else. And I think about the other trans women that I mentioned in the video last time, who maybe that's what they have done. And that's probably what I'm going to do. There's only so many hours in the day, and how we choose to spend our free time is up to us. And I definitely would say that we have an obligation to help the community, as others helped us. We have an obligation to help them. We have an obligation to share the understanding and knowledge for, good knowledge or bad advice. It all varies on the person. We have an obligation to help the next generation come through, okay? But at some point, we also have the right to move on and to maybe not be so far in the community. We have our own lives, and I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to jinx it. I would be totally happy with meeting a gamer, okay, a D&D player who can accept me for me and with all of my faults, and I have many. Who the fact that I had a penis when I was born doesn't matter to them, because, again, I'm hoping post-op, I'm hoping the little happy hole here will get lots of use, okay? Lots of use in the happy hole, whether with another person or an electronic device of some kind. I've been told the Hitachi is a pretty damn good model. I don't know about such things. I'm as vanilla as you can get as far as sex goes, but that is my hope, that I will meet a man, okay? And if that doesn't work out, maybe a woman who will satisfy those urges that I have, but also to be a couple. And, my spare time is going to be with him or with her in raising, my daughter was, she's going to be starting her life, and she may have a family. I might be a grandmother. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with, I guess what I want to say is fading away, But anyway, not sure if I've said anything or come to any conclusions or whatnot, but I really did like the last video. There was some good comments and things that were not in agreement with what I said, which is awesome. It's awesome to think. It's awesome to be a free thinker and to critically think about things and how they relate to your own life. And by golly, I mean, I'll be damned if I can't change my opinion at the drop of a hat, to whatever works. And again, exploration and, So on that note, I think I've run out of steam again. I've gotten my second wind back, which is good because that means I get to clean my room. I always put off my room. Later today, I'm meeting with Amber and some friends to talk about getting a D&D game off the ground, and I've not run a D&D game in about 10-15 years. Obviously this will be my first as a female DM, so it will be interesting to learn, and I'm a little afraid of my voice. I'm resonating a lot right now, and that's okay, but you know, when I DM'd, you know, I go between orcs and trolls and giants, and you know, my voice can use my voice and get passionate, etc., etc. So I'm a little worried that, not that I don't know. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it. For the good of the game, I will sacrifice my pride and make a fool out of myself for other people to have fun, and hopefully throughout this wonderful YouTube channel, I have also sacrificed my pride and made a fool of myself for someone else's, I'm not going to say entertainment, but understanding, and we can hope, or it's been a colossal waste of time. You know, take it either way. I'm looking forward to, I want to have surgery. I want to be able to eat. And I want to be able to drink again, damn it. I bought this Stein, and I have not been able to use it as much as I would like. You know what I mean? I want to have surgery, and I want to start drinking Dunkel, and I want to go have Jaeger Schnitzel, and I'll be tickled pink if I can meet a guy who will love me for myself, and if he don't, then we ain't gonna hook up, and ditto and likewise. So, all right, my friends, this is the second video I've made that's been god awful long. However, this is a good video for a treadmill. You're at 37 minutes, so go you, and I have 5 more pounds to go. Hopefully I'll meet my goal, and definitely 101 pounds lost today. So amen, Brother Ben. Fuck the requirement. I'll say that over and over again. I can't wait to eat. I want to eat chicken wings and pizza and steak. So, and I'll get there. All right, my friends, thank you for your patience and your, I won't say patronage because you're not paying anything, but thank you for your attention. And thank you for your involvement. Like I said, the posts have been really interesting to read, I think. And definitely, I'm not getting any money from this. You know, some YouTubers out there, and I don't consider myself a YouTuber, you know, like Stampy Longnose or Squid Nuggets. My daughter and I watch a lot of Minecraft videos. I hate them. Watching someone play Minecraft is like boring. I'd much rather play Minecraft than watch someone play Minecraft, but that's just me. All right, my friends, thank you for the bandwidth, and good luck in your journey, and we will make it through this. I am confident. We are survivors, okay? Tess was right. We are survivors. Be a survivor. Survive. Till next time, at least until the nuclear holocaust. But that's a whole other video for I'll let Miss Amelia deal with that. She's up on her nuclear holocaust. And duck and cover and all that. And fuck you, Mitch McConnell. That's my other thing. Fuck you with double barrels. I wish I lived in Kentucky so I could vote against Mitch McConnell, but I don't. I live in Indiana, so I have to deal with Hoosiers. God love them. All right, my friends, if I haven't thoroughly offended you, good luck on your journey, and I will catch up in the next video. Bye. Love you all.